this week on Thursday, most measures are being removed. From your point of view, is that too soon?
I think it's quite soon. Again, with the factors that I've just outlined, this virus is spreading really intensely. I think what is the challenge as we move into this next phase of this pandemic is how do we get the balance right with the measures that are needed to reduce the spread? Masks are widely available now. They were not in the beginning of this pandemic. We are asking people to be very cautious. For the moment, this pandemic will end. We will not be in this cycle forever.
How long could that take? Years or months?
I'm not talking months. Because if we look at a global level, we can't be out of the woods in one country while the rest of the world still suffers.
The WHO advises to keep some measures in place for the foreseeable future, masks, working from home where possible, for example. But that does have costs, doesn't it? Advising people to work from home clearly has an impact on economies.
Yeah, it's not everybody working from home. I mean, I think in this pandemic, we have seen that there are many businesses and where people can function very adequately at home. With the world that we live in now, with all of the different types of electronic platforms to speak to one another, there are some who can't work from home. There are people around the world who have day wages. They have to go to work. They have to be able to put food on the table. What we're saying is that in situations where there is pressure on your systems because of the circulation of this virus, that you use a balanced approach.
But you're basically asking people to change their way of life for the foreseeable future. There's not really an end in sight to this. On the basis that something more might happen, do you understand why people think that that is too much to ask?
I do understand, and I do understand people's frustrations, but we will not be in this situation forever. And wearing of a mask is not a big ask. What we are saying is that we need to be cautious. We need to exit this pandemic. We're not out of the woods yet. We need to exit this gracefully and carefully and slowly. We are not out of it.
People do want to see an end to this, don't they? So just give people an idea of the timescale. Do you envisage people wearing masks for the next few months, for the next few years?
It depends. I can't give you an answer to that because the situation is so dynamic worldwide. Governments have to set those policies based on the situations that they have. We will be in this pandemic certainly throughout 2022. There's no question in my mind. This virus is moving towards an endemic state at a global level, but you can't reach an endemic state in one country while the pandemic is thriving elsewhere. But it will be certainly through this year. We will have to see what happens into 2023, but that doesn't mean forever. And I am curious to see how we will use masks going forward in terms of different flu seasons.
You look at Omicron and how highly infectious it is. Have we learnt that nothing other than a complete lockdown, a draconian lockdown, can actually stop it spreading?
So I counter that. The goal is not to stop the spread, all spread. The goal is to reduce the spread so that we take the pressure off of health systems. You saw those massive peaks, which we're still seeing in countries. That massive peak overwhelmed systems worldwide, and it is still overwhelming systems worldwide. What we are saying are use tools that reduce the spread. We're not able to stop the spread. We're not able to stop all transmission. Eradicating this virus, eliminating this virus is not possible. But what we can do is we can reduce the spread so that we reduce that pressure on the systems. That's the goal.
We're just rolling out, as it were, of a winter where we've had very high cases. Are we going to be rolling into another winter at the end of this year, a similar winter?
We may, but what we've seen with all of the 5 variants of concern is that they haven't followed that typical seasonal pattern. And so what we are worried about is the next variant. We are tracking descendant lineages of Omicron at the moment. We have this BA.1, BA.2, BA.3. We have 30 sublineages of Delta that we are tracking worldwide. The virus is still evolving. And so we may have future variants, but they won't. This virus is not behaving like a typical seasonal respiratory virus. It will thrive in any climate, in any situation, if we allow it. It's the variants of concern that circulate. It's the increasing social mixing. It's the inappropriate use of public health and social measures. It's in the context of still susceptible people worldwide, and it's in the context of conflicting messages, misinformation, disinformation, and now these false narratives that it's over. Unfortunately, it's not. I would give nothing to be on your show to say we're at the end, but we aren't, and we need everyone's help to get us closer to the end.
There's even talk of removing the need to self-isolate if you test positive for COVID in the coming months, by the end of March possibly, maybe even sooner than that. Certainly in England. Would you support that?
I think it's premature. I mean, I think there needs to be a clear reason of why that is being dropped. If you don't isolate cases, then the virus will spread between people. Our goal with our guidance is to prevent the onward spread. That is why we continue to recommend isolation. And as I said, there can be a balance to shortening that, but completely abandoning that will allow the virus to spread.
It sounds as if it alarms you.
It does, yes, because what we are trying to do, what me and my colleagues here at WHO and around the world, the scientists around the world, we are all working towards ending this pandemic, and we need everyone's help. We need everyone to play their part in whatever function they have where they live. And isolation and quarantine play a really critical role in driving that transmission down.
Maria van Kerkhoven, thank you.
Thank you for having me.